Hi, I'm Cheryl Oberkircher. I am the Secretary for One Love Spirit Center and here to welcome you today for our live stream Sunday service. I know John has something special to say just for you. One love.
Good morning. Today, March 21st, marks the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. It's observed annually on the day the police in Sharpeville, South Africa, opened fire and killed 69 people at a peaceful demonstration against apartheid in 1960. In 1979, the General Assembly adopted a program of activities to be undertaken during the second half of the decade for action to combat racism and racial discrimination. On that occasion, the General Assembly decided that a week of solidarity with the people struggling against racism and racial discrimination, beginning the 21st day of March, would be organized and recognized annually in all states. Since then, the apartheid system in South Africa has been dismantled. Racist laws and practices have been abolished in many countries, and we have built an international framework for fighting racism, guided by the International Convention on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. The convention is now nearing universal ratification, yet still in all regions, too many individuals, communities, and societies suffer from the injustice and stigma that racism brings. Okay, y'all, let's talk about principle of equality. The United Nations General Assembly reiterates that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights and have the potential to contribute constructively to the development and well-being of their societies. In its most recent resolution, the General Assembly also emphasized that any doctrine of racial superiority is scientifically false, morally condemnable, socially unjust, and dangerous, and must be rejected. Together with theories that attempt to determine the existence of separate human races, the United Nations has been concerned with this issue since its foundation, and the prohibition of racial discrimination is enshrined in all core international human rights instruments. It places obligations on states and tasks them with the eradicating discrimination in the public and private spheres. The principle of equality also requires states to adopt special measures to eliminate conditions that cause or help to perpetuate racial discrimination. All right, y'all. Youth Standing Up Against Racism is the 2021 theme. It engages the public through #FightRacism, which aims to foster a global culture of tolerance, equality, and anti-discrimination, and calls on each and every one of us to stand up against racial prejudice and intolerant attitudes. Young people massively showed their support at the 2020 Black Lives Matter marches, which drew millions of demonstrators worldwide. On the streets, groundswells of youth, mostly teens, and 20-somethings came together to protest against racial injustice. On social media, they mobilized participation, calling on their peers to speak out and to stand up for the equal rights of all people. Their activism was all more than remarkable in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, which we all saw the restrictions on public gatherings in many countries. As the virus began to spread in early 2020, a parallel pandemic was unleashed of hatred, violence, and fear against certain ethnicities and nationalities. It quickly became clear that stark inequities, sometimes rooted in racism, had subjected minorities to a significantly higher risk of infection and death. COVID-19 has heavily impacted young people, including those from minority backgrounds. Many are now grappling with an increase in racial discrimination, in addition to severe disruptions to their education, diminished employment prospects, and limited ability to participate in public life, which stymies their individual and social empowerment. Listen up. If our youth can do it, surely we can as adults. I charge you all to let's fight racism together. Racism, xenophobia, and intolerance are problems prevalent in all societies. But every day, each and every one of us can stand up against racial prejudice and intolerant attitudes. Be a human rights champion by simply standing up for human rights. Lastly, in September of this year, the United Nations General Assembly will bring together world leaders for a one-day meeting in New York to mark the 20th anniversary of the adoption of the Durban Declaration and Program of Action under the theme of reparations, racial justice, and equality for people of African descent. Please, people, walk today and every day with your head held high, knowing that what you feel is real and valid and worthy of sharing to bring change in this country. Don't be fearful, and so it is. Can I get an amen? Namaste.
Good morning, everybody. It is still Women's Month, and we celebrate women and the divine feminine. And this song is actually kind of about that. It's about deciding to just be yourself, even though somebody may want you to be someone else. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to be anything other than a prison guard son. I don't need to be anything other than a specialist son. I don't have to be anyone other than the birth of two souls in one. Part of where I'm going now is knowing where I'm coming from. I don't want to be anything other than what I've been trying to be lately. All I have to do is think of me and I have peace of mind. I'm tired of looking around rooms wondering what I gotta do, who I'm supposed to be. I don't want to be anyone other than That's how I feel sometimes. I'm surrounded by lies everywhere I turn. I'm surrounded by imposters everywhere I turn. I'm surrounded by identity crisis everywhere I turn. Am I the only one to notice? I can't be the only one concerned. I don't want to be anything other than what I've been trying to be lately. All I have to do is think of me and my peace of mind. I'm tired of looking around rooms wondering what I gotta do, who I'm supposed to be. I don't want to be anything other than me. Can I have everybody's attention, please? Oh, somebody told me if you're not like this or that, you're just gonna have to leave. I came from the mountain, the crust of creation. My whole situation made from clay and stone, and now I'm telling everybody I don't want to be anything other than what I've been trying to be lately. All I have to do is think of me and I have peace of mind. Tired of looking around rooms wondering what I gotta do, who I'm supposed to be. I don't want to be anything other than me. I don't want to be, no, no. I don't want to be, I don't want to be anything other just like that. I don't want to be anything other than me. Good morning, everybody. I'm so glad you're here. Make sure you share this live stream to your page. Share it with a friend. Let them know, if they don't care for Facebook, that we're also streaming to YouTube as well, and that all of these videos are archived on the YouTube page. Taking a deep breath after that one. It's hard to rock out when you're sitting down. You know, I'm used to standing up for songs like that. We have a wonderful, there's a wonderful artist that I really appreciate a lot. He's in the secular sphere of music, or genre of music, I guess you would call it secular. Of course, the song I just did would be called Secular. Great message in it. But this song is one that Jason Mraz, and all of you already know that Jason Mraz is one of my favorite. To me, he's a positive pop artist, indie artist. I'm not sure what genre actually it falls into. I think he's had a couple of pop hits, and so I guess that makes him a pop artist. But anyway, he writes from the heart, and he and I have something in common. He loves the teachings of Khalil Gibran, the prophet. And he writes a lot from that space, especially back during the pandemic. Before the pandemic hit, though, he was doing a tour, and he had a women's group, and their name passes me at the moment. But a women's group that he was on tour with, and they got in the back room and sang one of his songs, Things Are Looking Up. Just a guitar, vocals, and them standing around with instruments. And it was such a good, just sort of behind-the-scenes, casual video. I grabbed it and said, you know what, we need to use this there in our service. For all of you who are dealing with something right now, something that's really gotten you down, this video, I believe, will be a blessing to you. The title of it is Things Are Looking Up, and it's Jason Mraz and a couple of folks. Directly following that, we're going to have a video from my daughter, my oldest daughter, sharing with us one of her heroes in the women's movement toward equality. But here's Jason Mraz.
Well, there are 3 things I do when my life falls apart. Number 1, I cry my eyes out and I dry up my heart. And not until I do this will my new life start. So that's the first thing that I do when my life falls apart. The second thing I do is I close both of my eyes and I say my thank yous to each and every moment of my life. I go where I know that love is and let it fill me up inside, gathering new strength from sorrow. I'm glad to be alive. Things are looking up. I know above the clouds the sun is shining. Things are looking up. Oh, love is still the answer. I am relying on 3 little things. Chapter end. I design my future bright, not by where my life has been, no. And I try again. Yes, I try again. Things are looking up. I know beyond the dark the sun is rising. Things are looking up. I know above the clouds that sun is shining. Things are looking up. Oh, love is still the answer. I am relying on these 3 little things.
hope you all have been enjoying your International Women's Month. I know I sure have. I had a little bit of a hard time deciding who I wanted to talk about at first because there are so many women who inspire me each and every day. But seeing as how I have this particular woman tattooed on my body, I thought it might be fitting for me to take this time to talk about Miss Frida Kahlo. If you don't know who Frida was, she was a Mexican painter in the early 1900s, and she used her time on this earth to defy all gender stereotypes. She absolutely refused to sit down and be quiet, especially when she felt fired up and passionate about something. She was not going to be changing her physical identity to fit into the little box of what womanhood was supposed to be. She's best known for her unibrow and her mustache. She used her paintings to tell real life stories and experiences of a real life woman, and even and especially the stories that were too taboo to talk about. She was not going to censor herself or change her story or make herself fit into that little box, and I really admire her for that. She reminds me each and every day that my story is important, and the rest of society doesn't dictate what I get to share about it. Anyway, I hope you get to take that little message from Miss Frida too, because she's a pretty incredible woman. All right, I hope you have a great rest of your International Women's Month, and I will talk to you later. Bye.
I'm a little bit proud of my daughter Ashton sharing with us Frida for freedom. Frida was an artist and one who was just unwilling to bow to the demands to be a certain way during her time. That's why if you find a couple of pictures of Frida, you'll find that she had a unibrow and a mustache, a slight mustache that she refused to shave just because people thought that she didn't look enough like a woman. She was unwilling to bow to those particular norms in that time and space. I'm proud of Ashton's ability to find a place of balance in her activism. She's very active in social justice and progress. And at the same time, she has learned over the last couple of years to really carry that all with a sense of humility and a sense of care. And during this time in the season that we're in, I believe the universe is correcting itself. That's why I think that the power of the divine feminine is coming to the forefront, because something needs to be fixed in our world. Even the earth itself is crying out for us to pay attention to what we're doing. It's almost like Mother's calling us back inside, calling us home. It's that mothering, that feminine nurturing, calling us all home into a space. During 2020, we saw that the universe essentially sent us to our room. Told us, go to your room and think about what you're doing. Everybody ended up getting closed up in their own homes and isolated. We'd already been isolated in some way because of social issues, political issues, religious issues, people's issues with other people's issues, and forming opinions around false facts just because we can't handle the truth. Sometimes I think that Jack Nicklaus was correct in that movie. You can't handle the truth. I think sometimes we have a hard time dealing with the truth. So we just come up with a bunch of things that might fit to support our agenda, and we just go that route. The divine feminine is inviting us, though, to face some of our demons. So our overarching theme for the whole year is going beyond the veil, but our theme for this month is embracing the divine feminine. Allowing the divine feminine to completely unfold from the inside out. And that's not just for women. Let me say it this way. That's not just for women or females who were born female into this planet and in some way maybe signed a contract in the cosmos to come here. But we're born into this planet or this plane with a woman's body. Some identify more male even though they have the female structure of body, physical body. I don't have an issue with that either. In fact, we should support our transgender friends and children. We should support our gay and lesbian friends and children, and we should support each other. We should stop being so judgmental. It's none of your business how someone identifies. And so why would it matter to you? How does that affect how you identify in your life would be my question. You say, well, God said. We can talk about what God said, because somewhere down the line, if you want to talk about what God said, I'm sure there's something in there that might be tight for you too. I'm speaking this week from the subject of freeing the divine feminine within, bringing total freedom, embracing fully the divine feminine within. This week applies mostly to women, but men, I would invite you to please listen along. And I'll give a disclaimer. I am not a female. I don't identify as a female. So I don't claim to be an expert on this stuff. But these are things I've been inviting myself to see that I maybe couldn't see before. As you joined our meditation this week, those of you who did, you'll remember that our meditation was mainly on the opening of the third eye, or the eye of the understanding, as is spoken of by Jesus in the Gospels, when he said, if the eye be filled with light, or if the eye is single, the whole being is filled with light. If the eye is focused, the whole being takes in the light. When we start living from that space, and we start living from the awakened space, I believe that men and women both can begin to understand masculine and divine, God and goddess, more fluently, because you invite it. And I believe because I've invited Mother God to teach me more, because I've been able to be open. I wasn't always open, but I am more open now. That's actually being open and receptive is actually an aspect of the divine feminine anyway. But being more open, then you invite the teacher to come. When the student is ready, the teacher shows up. The teacher may as well not show up until the student is ready, because until the student is ready, the teacher showing up would almost be an act of violence to try to push a belief on someone who's unwilling to even listen to what you have to say is an act of violence. But we're freeing the divine feminine. And this is an anonymous quote. Living life in integrity requires that we come into alignment with our true essence. Actually living your life with integrity and character requires that we live from or come into alignment with our true self. I want to talk a little bit about the divine feminine in the goddess form. In fact, I'm going to look right at the camera, look at all you women out there and say, you are a goddess. Start living like it. You are a goddess. The image of God, the likeness of God is how you were created. Start being your goddess self. In fact, I would invite you to this affirmation. I am a goddess. Take that on for yourself. I am a goddess. Now let's talk about what that might mean. And these are some aspects that you find in the Vedic tradition. You find some of it in the fringes of Buddhism. You certainly find this in some of the rabbinical teachings, especially those who were sort of on the edge of rabbinical teaching, which would be Jewish teachings. The Sufis certainly embrace this. And some of Christianity does, especially when you get into the mystics. But these are some of the aspects of the goddess energy in the universe as it's expressing itself. Number one, this is an aspect of the feminine nature, restoration. Number two, life. Number three, renewal. Number four, creation. And of course, creation. And number five is birth. Of course, we know those are aspects already. Creation, creating, the birthing process. None of us would be here without that aspect of the feminine nature. Literally, none of us would be here on this planet without a womb that brought you here, that nurtured you to the place that you could come and be here in this present moment. Number six, healing. There's an aspect of feminine nature that brings healing. That's one of the reasons I believe the universe is correcting itself as it pertains to the divine feminine coming to full function in the world, because this world needs some healing. I know I can get an amen from somebody in the amen corner on that. We need some healing in our world, some bringing back together, some mending the brokenness that's been there. Number seven, receptivity, and that's not just sexual. And when you think about receptivity, you may think about the act of intercourse, but that's not just a sexual thing or a terminology that leads us toward thinking toward sex. Receptivity is the ability to simply be open. As I mentioned a moment ago, anyone can find a space within themselves to be open and receive the Word of God or receive the nature of the divine. Number 8, right along with receptivity, is openness. Number 9, nurturing. Number 10, love. Yeah, there's a bunch of these. Love. Number 11, understanding. And we talked about some of this a couple of weeks ago, some of these things that you'll hear a little bit of a repeat, but I just want to remind us of this nature that we really all need to be embracing. Number 12, compassion. I love this one. Number 13, insight, not just eyesight. So as we've talked about during meditation, as we've been meditating on the third eye brings about insight, while the naked eye brings about eyesight. The naked eye pulls in information, and the third eye reveals inspiration. Can you see the difference in that, the connection with that? And so when I'm talking about insight, I'm not talking about the things that we see with the naked eye. I'm talking about the ability to see beyond the actor. The whole persona. One of the biggest issues with our world is that we're so engaged in our personalities that we've forgotten who we are. Because the personality often is built by the people who influenced you, the school you went to, the religion that you were told you were, the way somebody told you to live your life. I hear this all the time from our kids. Our kids will come home from school, and our kids live in, as you can tell by listening to us, quite a progressive home. And so the kids will come home and they'll talk about some of the things that they've heard in class from their classmates. And what we've tried to relay to our children is to try to remain in a space of balance, because we try to reveal to them, really most of what you are believing right now at this stage is something that in some way we've taught you. And so you've come to believe it. The same is true for those you're at school with. Much of what they believe, they also have been taught. They've simply been taught to believe that. And so because they believe that, they don't actually hold on to that belief tightly. They don't hold on to that belief tightly. They only believe it because someone told them to believe it. Does that make sense? And often that is true even with our children. But hopefully we're raising them to ask more questions, to be more intuitive, to be more engaged in actually wanting to know why they believe what they believe and how what they believe adds to or takes away from the quality of their life. So, insight. Intuition. The ability to be intuitive, to recognize and be able to see beyond, to sense something. Intuition comes to women, to me, more readily than it does to men. There's a sort of a sense of discernment. They can just feel something's not right, or something is right, or something needs to be adjusted. So intuition. Wisdom is another one. In fact, wisdom in the Old Testament is Sophia, a female name. The word Sophia in Hebrew means wisdom, and wisdom is associated with the name Sophia. 16, forgiveness. Now I know that you've heard repeatedly that nobody can hold a grudge like a woman. But the truth is that a woman can hold a grudge and at the same time forgive your tail. I don't know how they do that, but often they can. It doesn't mean they necessarily want to be with you if you hurt them, but they are able to forgive and in some way hold some kind of a axe to grind with the association maybe of that individual. Forgiveness seems to come readily, especially to mothers. They're able to forgive their children of many things. I mean, think about it. As you're raising your children, most of the time your children are not grateful. Often they're very rebellious, especially when they go through stages. We have a couple of children now who are in the adolescence and they're really working through the chemistry of their bodies and and respect is kind of way on down the line. And that's okay because they'll make full circle at some point. And they just have to be reminded. That's what we're here for, is to sort of help be bumpers at the bowling alley so they don't go in the gutter. So we try to keep the bumpers up so they can at least hit a pin, right? Make some kind of points in life. So number 17, the moon. And the moon is often associated with the female energy. Monday. Some find Monday mundane. It's not as bright of a light as Sunday. It kind of has a mystery to it, but the moon does too, and the moon is associated with the female energy. Number 18, connection. Connection, the ability to connect. Number 19, harmony. Number 20, sensuality. I'm going to talk a little bit more about sensuality and female sexuality in just a few moments. So I'll give you fair warning that I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to talk about it candidly, because I think that there's some things that we have not covered in church because we thought it was taboo, and we need to get past that stuff. I believe that each woman, and I wrote some of these things down because it was coming really fast at me as I was in meditation about this Sunday service. Each woman is a unique expression of the divine feminine and should not feel the need to be or to act like any other female or to compare and compete with other women. One of the biggest issues in our world today is that women feel this need to compete with another woman, and a lot of that's men's fault because of the maleness that has, and the toxic masculinity that has made demands on women and made women think, and it's been passed down from grandma to mama to daughter, and then passed on down to her daughter and grandchild. This idea that unless a man shows you attention, you don't have any value. Let me say to you, it's time for women to fully break free from this belief that you need to impress anybody with who you are. You just need to be you. How does life make you happy? And how does doing life make you happy? That's who you need to be. And if a man or a woman, if you happen to be lesbian, or if a man or a woman is not interested in doing that with you, just keep on living your life until somebody comes along. But the key is to know within your own self that you don't need anyone else. See, the thing is this idea that I need someone else to complete me actually injures your soul and ultimately begins to fracture yourself and your self-awareness. Because you need to be able to be free to be with your own self, to love your own self, embrace your own self, and be who you are unapologetically. And the world needs you to be that. So each woman is a unique expression of the divine feminine. And let me share a few societal things that I think are important when I say this. Again, I'm a man, so I have had makeup on my face maybe a half dozen times. And a couple of those times were because my daughters wanted to play with makeup and they wanted to use me. And I just agreed to it, which I was okay with for a little bit. I don't know how y'all do that all day long though. I don't know. And then the other times were photo shoots where I had to wear makeup. I cannot imagine having to do that every single day. And when the women's suffrage movement started and then the women's liberation movement started 60s and 70s, there were women who were saying, I'm not going to wear makeup anymore. I'm not shaving my armpits. I'm not shaving my legs. I'm going to wear men's clothing. I'm burning my bras, and I don't have to look any certain way for anybody. And that's fine. If that makes you feel liberated, go and do that. But know this, if you're resisting for the sake of resisting, and your life is no happier, then you might want to rethink what you're doing simply because you're not enjoying life. So I heard a story from a young lady, I guess she's probably in her 30s, something like that. She said she was raised by a mother who was very active for women's liberation during the 60s, and her mother did that. She said her mother burned her bras, she's quit wearing makeup, she started wearing men's clothes, and she was not going to conform any longer. She was going to fight against the system. She said, so I was born to my mother who all of my life stayed in resistance mode, was constantly resisting. Constantly. In fact, her mother wouldn't let her play with anything pink. She wouldn't let her dress in anything pink. She dressed her in boys' clothes, and she told her that she better never catch her in the color pink because there was an association with pink and weakness for some reason. Can I tell you, all of the colors are beautiful. Every single one of them are beautiful. Now, if you have a trigger or an association, then you can work through that on your own. But there's no color that's off limits. And there's no color that's evil, y'all. just because it may have been associated with some things. We need to free the colors and free ourselves to live in full color. She said she found it ironic that several years later she was in therapy. And in therapy, the therapist was asking her to think on thoughts of happiness and what it would be like to be fulfilled, and whatever color came to mind in association with happiness and fulfillment, to just name that color. And she said, y'all, literally the only color that would come to mind was pink. She said, as I sat in the therapist's office and I'm thinking, I can't say pink. My mother would have a stroke. My mother told me she better never catch me in pink. She said, my mother, who was a very strong resistance woman, and this woman actually is strong in her own way. This woman is an activist herself. She actually is one who teaches new thought ideas. And she said that as she's teaching these new thought ideas and she's running through her life and doing what she does, that she is finding herself wearing high heels. She said she was finding herself wearing high heels, and she was finding herself wearing makeup, and she was finding herself doing all the girly stuff. And she said, of course, my mother, who was highly resistant to maleism, to toxic masculinity, she said, of course, my mother would raise a daughter who wanted to wear dresses, push-up bras, and high heels. And so she found a space of freedom. She found her way toward a place of freedom. And as she found her way toward that place of freedom, she was able to finally rise up and be her true and authentic self. I'm inviting you into the same space today. And here's the thing. Let me say this. Let go of whatever keeps you from being fully your divine feminine self. Let go of whatever keeps you from being that person that you want to be. Let go of any of those aspects that don't work for you. If you don't like being in the traditional position of a woman, you don't like being in the traditional position of the female that has the husband who's going out and working, and you're staying at home and you're doing the thing, and you don't want to see yourself as a homemaker, it's quite all right. Don't do that. Go do what makes you happy. But let me also give you a sense of freedom. Hopefully, this is a sense of freedom for somebody today. If you do feel fulfilled being a housewife, raising the kids, cooking, washing clothes, doing all the stuff at home, don't let anybody keep you from doing that, because you should be liberated enough to be your joyful and unique self. You don't need anybody to tell you how you should or shouldn't live your life. Freedom is yours when you begin to live from a space of full development and full integrity as a woman. So the invitation today is just that. The invitation today is for you to rise up into your space of freedom and to let go. Let go of any aspect in your life that you feel like does not make you fulfilled. Just let it go. We're having some technical difficulties, and it's quite all right. It's all good. We're just going to keep moving forward. Now, I said I was going to talk about this, and I want to roll into this for just a few moments. I don't want to spend a lot of time here, but I think this is important. One of the things that has happened in our life and in our lifetime over the last many years, not just our lifetime, but our grandmother's lifetime, their lifetime before that, their grandmother's lifetime before that, is this sense that you are just someone who is supposed to serve the man, have sex just to bring children into the world, and that's your solemn and godly duty. And as a result of that, it's been trivialized, at least in the Western world, for women to enjoy and embrace their sexuality. Now, when we say the word sexuality, people start to automatically get, oh, no, what are you talking about that for now, by God? Because we have built so many ridiculous, moral laws and rules around that word. Sex is not a dirty thing. Sexuality is not a dirty thing. Enjoying sex is not a dirty thing. Feeling those sensations and those rushes, having an orgasm as a woman is not a dirty thing. I said the word orgasm right here on our Faith Community live stream. Yes, because people have trivialized it and they've made it taboo and created evil around something that is not evil. Please, 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 for the love of your own self and for the love of your family and for the people around you and for living your life to the fullest, start to embrace your sexual self as a woman. A big part of the divine feminine is sensuality. And it's okay. Not sin, S-I-N, S-E-N, sensuality. And it's okay to be okay with you. Somebody type that in the comments real quick. It's a powerful thing. It is okay to be okay with me. Love your body. Embrace your body. Learn your body. Be okay with you. You don't have to give up that strong, powerful force that is sensuality and sexuality for a world that has given us a false narrative about morality. So do not be afraid or embarrassed about your sexuality. Embrace your sexual self fully. Our society has ingrained the idea that women enjoying sex and or loving sex is somehow not okay, and that all of a sudden means you're dirty. We've used words like slutty. We've used words like whore. These are things that have injured the women in our world, and it needs to stop. There needs to be an association of loving awareness when it comes to human sexuality. In fact, I believe this. I believe that religion has helped to perpetuate the lewd sex acts that we call rape and molestation and sexual assault. I believe the church has helped to birth more of that by pushing it into the darkness instead of bringing it into the light that God intended from the very beginning. Now, I know that gets uncomfortable for folks, but please hold with me for just a moment. If we can begin to look at our sexual selves as sacred and loving and compassionate and fun and fantastic, we can heal our sexual selves. And as a result, I believe there'll be less and less children being exploited and women being exploited and human beings being exploited. Because we have made evil what God intended for good. And that, my friends, has created a toxicity in our earth that needs to be healed. Imagine taking that into our time of meditation. That's what we're going to do. We're going to get ready to go into our meditation time now. Allow yourself in this moment to just hear past the mind that's been conditioned to think that some of the things we've talked about today are off limits. None of it's off limits. We're bringing to the world a fresh expression of what it is to live divine, to live in our divine nature. We're allowing Spirit to recondition us. And during this month, we're allowing the full unfolding of the divine feminine. We welcome it. And we say thank you. Thank you. So take a few moments, if you would, and just sit up straight. Receive a deep breath through your nose. And breathing in, I allow the divine feminine to unfold. And breathing out, I let go of the negative conditioning. Breathing in, I allow the divine feminine to unfold. And breathing out, I let go of any negative condition. Receive a deep breath with me, please. Breathing in, I allow the divine feminine to unfold, fully unfold. And breathing out, I let go of the negative conditioning. Feel yourself being released from competition, from comparison, from the incessant need to be anything or to be anyone. You are becoming your authentic, essential self. Letting go of shame, letting go of that resistance within yourself. We spend so much of our time either resisting what we don't want to be or giving in to what we don't want to be just so we can fit in or feel like we belong. We're letting go of all of that. We're allowing ourselves to be fully and completely awake to our truest essence. What a gift. What a gift. I let go of any conditioning that demands that I be anything other than me. I let go of the need to perform for the society's sake. I choose to be the person I was sent here to be. I've spent my life conforming, and I'll spend the rest of my life transforming into everything I was sent here to be. Receive healing in this moment from any trauma, any painful memory. Allow the nurturing power of the divine feminine, the healing power of the divine feminine, to do her work in you. to nurture and caress and heal your soul and self. It is okay to be soft, gentle, and also strong and courageous. It's not a this or that. It's this and that. I feel like someone needs to hear this in this moment now. You are uniquely you. You are not your mother. You are not your grandmother. You are uniquely you. And even if you identify with some aspects of the feminine, the women in your life, you are not identical to them. You never have been. You never will be. You are uniquely divine feminine yourself. Embrace you fully. Let go of the comparisons. Let go of the competition. As we bring this meditation to a conclusion, I'll ask you once again to receive a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And as you breathe in, breathing in, I allow the divine feminine to fully unfold. And breathing out, I let go of all negative constructs. Let's receive a deep breath. And so it is. And so it is. So good. So good. Okay. Hopefully you feel more free to be your authentic, true self. I know we covered some touchy material today. This is one of the reasons I gave a disclaimer at the beginning that I'm not a woman, never have been. Although I believe that the divine feminine stirs within me and that I'm open to it. I don't claim to be an expert on these things, but one of the things I do believe is that really just about anything I shared today, honestly, is transferable to the masculine as well, being your integral self. The integrity of being fully aligned with your essence. Men also have these insecurities where they compare themselves and compete with other men. And they think there's certain things they need to do, certain clothes they need to wear, a certain amount of money they need to earn. They don't want anybody to find out that they cook or clean. I know men like that. I just heard a man recently talking about it. He said, "Oh no, I don't wash no dishes, man. I don't wash." What are you afraid of? Afraid you're gonna get soft hands from this stuff? So we compete and compare instead of just being our authentic selves. So please know that my heart here is for us as a community to face these things that I really believe have been holding humanity back from being fully blossoming into the flower we're supposed to be. And I think that's part of our job. I believe that's part of our calling in this community, to be very direct and to carry this message of freedom to the whole world. All right. If you feel like that this message and this community brings a sense of inspiration to you, and you feel like that this is the kind of practical spiritual message that needs to be relayed to the world, consider helping us continue to do that by giving. When you give, it gives us the ability. It helps us to be able to pay for the equipment that it takes to bring this to you. It helps us to be able to take care of the budget of this community as it pertains to staffing and all of the work that goes into the process of making this come out into the world. We are literally podcasting and live streaming to the whole world through YouTube and through Facebook. But who knows who will get a chance across the world, maybe even, to have access to this kind of a freeing message, and you help that to happen. The information is on the screen for how to send a check. We also do take digital giving by way of PayPal and Venmo. That information is up for you to make use of. And I want to say thank you to everyone who is giving so far, who continues to give. It helps us to continue being able to, once again, as I just said a moment ago, continue to be able to bring this to you. We are right now in the midst of having sort of a membership campaign. And I'm going a little bit off script here, but my wife, she's so amazing and able to keep up with this stuff. On the screen, you'll see that we recognize that everyone belongs, and I want you to know that. There's no big I's and little U's. But when it comes to the structure of a community, we have a constitution and bylaws, we have a mission statement, a vision statement, we have a faith statement. All of these things are required by law for us to have a 501c3, a nonprofit status. And one of the things that we wrote into our constitution and bylaws was a regular turnover of leadership, almost kind of like term limits. And if you're interested in helping us to lead this community, at some point there'll be a position open for anyone who is a sustaining partner. You're essentially a member, an official member of this ministry. You get access to being able to be a part of our leadership at some point, be a part of some of our outreach groups and our committees that we'll be putting together for different things that we're doing out in the world. But number one, we know that they're regular attenders, and when I say regular, you're all high octane. But what I mean is that people who watch on a regular basis and participate, everyone belongs. Remember that. Number two, regular attenders and contributors. There are people who contribute their gifts, talents, and finances and attend regularly. But the next option is number three, and that's to be a sustaining partner. Anyone who wants to be a sustaining partner, we're just asking if you're interested in that to send us an email to onelovespiritcenter@gmail.com and let us know that that's what you would like to do. Next week, following the service, we're going to be having a Facebook Rooms gathering with those who have sent us emails so that we can go through some things about membership and about sustaining partners. So thank you for those who have continued to support and want to support even further and be even more engaged than you have been up to this point. Braving the Wilderness is our book study, and we are each Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time going through that book. This last week we had Miss Donna Miller, who is the treasurer of our community here, to talk about chapter 3. If you are behind on that, you don't have to worry about it. Those videos are archived, chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. The videos are archived right here on our Facebook page. Join us again this coming Wednesday. Also, we continue to do our meditation. That meditation is on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of each week. We're bringing it to you at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's early in the morning, I know, but we even have folks from Nashville who join us, and they're an hour behind. What's your excuse? But join us at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for our time of meditation. And I believe that it'll be life-changing to you, and I believe that you will absolutely enjoy it. I think I've gotten all of the announcements. Is that it? Okay, I'm getting the thumbs up from the boss, and she says we're good to go. She is the director. By the way, I haven't in a couple of weeks given kudos to her. She takes care of all of this technical stuff, the cameras, the sound, the whole deal. And this woman, just a year ago, hadn't ever put her hands on a mixing board, hadn't ever run a switcher of any sort. When I said, can you help me with this switcher? She was like, switcher? What's that? And she's running it like a champ, like a professional now. I don't even know how she picked it up, because I've worked with people before that I could have worked with them for a year now, and they still would have problems with the first, what we call the elementary stuff. And she's already like graduated past me. I'll say, hey, is such and such engaged? And she'll be like, yes. You already had it done. But I just want to say, excuse me, thank you to, got me all shook up. Thank you to my wife for guiding us through this whole thing and making it possible for us to be, for you to be able to see what's happening here. Let's do our theme song just a little bit. Sing along with me. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. To give thanks and praise to the Lord, and I will feel alright. Oh yeah, let's get together and feel alright. Everybody give thanks and praise to the Lord, and I will feel alright. Yes. And let's do our affirmation together. I believe these are wonderful, wonderful things. If we can create a habit, your ears need to hear your mouth say these words. I affirm that I am inclusive, compassionate, kind, and strong. I am awake, aware, and fully alive. I am pure presence. I am divine. I am one love. And so it is. Go and make it a great week simply because you have the ability to do so. Be love. Be the unfolding of divine feminine energy in the world. Because everybody needs you to be fully you. And go be yourself, because everybody else is taken. I love you. Peace.